Well, I got involved with boxing, you know, watching an older brother, of course, and my father was his trainer, so I hung around the gym a lot, and next thing you know, I'm right here doing the same thing they were doing. And this is a feeling that can't be described. It's a high that can't be felt again. Not only because African-American flyweight champion, just becoming a world champion, they can take the belts away from me, but they can't take my name out of history books.
When they tell me that he's going to be in the Boxing Hall of Fame, tears hit me real low. I said, my father can't answer no more.
I tell everybody, it was like a tire with too much air in it. As soon as you hit a bump or a rock, it's ready to blow. It's just that I had so much on my mind from doing things like that. And at that particular time, I felt as though when I came home, after a workout at the gym, one word led to the next. We got in a heated argument, and I blew.
I've been teaching kids 30, 20 years not to go into place, and my son is in the place.
My thoughts was that you did something as a man, so you're gonna have to, you know, you're gonna have to suffer the consequences as a man. It's no, you know, you going to no boys detention or no juvenile. I can say, yeah, I regret it, and I can say, no, I don't regret it, because everything's happened for a reason. My biggest thing is that it got me focused. Me and my wife's situation is, you know, it's the same way. We still together. We reconciled that. So I think time is the essence, and with time heals everything. It's so great to be free. It's so great just to be out here and be able to go in your own refrigerator. You know, it's great just to be able to just walk your kids to school. And it's the small things, you know, that you miss when you're incarcerated. So with this team I have around me now, not only with my camp in the gym, not only with my managerial team, I'm looking forward to winning world titles and becoming a superstar. You know, Mark Johnson, living right, eating right, training right, and I know it's a blessing to get a second chance.
Well, he is definitely getting that second chance, Max, but will he get a chance at the title, or the opponent's going to be ducking?
You know what it reminds me of? Remember Raging Bull, the scene where De Niro and Pesci are talking, De Niro playing Jake LaMotta, and he's mad at Pesci, his manager, his younger brother, for making this fight where he had to lose all this weight. And Pesci, as the manager, said, look, if you lose the weight and you win, great, you won the fight. They got to fight you, there's no one else to fight. The champion does. If you lose the fight because of the weight, now all those guys who wouldn't fight you, now they're going to fight you. Well, Mark Johnson's kind of in the same situation. Fight managers earlier in his career of other top fighters around his weight class wouldn't even take his name seriously. What about Mark Johnson? Are you kidding? We're not going to get anywhere near Mark Johnson. He was by far the best guy. He would have whipped Ricardo Lopez or Johnny Tapia, most likely. And no one wanted to go near him. Now, it almost is in his best interest to not look so good, because maybe these guys who weren't fighting will now fight him. Now, fortunately for Mark Johnson, if that's the case, he hasn't looked so good recently. So maybe these other guys will now start to fight him.
He's been just sharp. He hasn't been too sharp.
No, he has not
He's just been sharp.
He's been sharp enough to beat some tough guys. Perez, before he was inactive, before he was in prison, he beat La Cierva, who wound up winning a title from one of those sanctioning bodies that I hate so much, but he is a good fighter, La Cierva. And Johnson's been struggling, but against tough guys. And by the way, for him, struggling, if it was Johnny Tapia or Paulie Ayala doing the exact same thing against those fighters, we wouldn't say struggling, we'd say winning impressively.
Well, I can guarantee you that tonight, fighters like Johnny Tapia out there, Nassim Ahmed, somehow he'll be watching this fight or get a tape of it to see exactly where Too Sharp is with his career.
By the way,
measuring night for Too Sharp Johnson.
Yeah, by the way, his only so-called loss was in Ireland on St. Patrick's Day to a guy whose brother weighed in for him, so he really weighed in. They were supposed to fight at 112. The guy who he was fighting, his brother weighed in at 112. He weighed in, like, his real weight was like 122, 125. On St. Patrick's Day in Ireland, Johnson beats him and gets robbed. So really, he's an undefeated fighter.
Well, can he continue his winning ways? He hasn't lost in 11 years. He's on deck. Too Sharp is coming up.
This is Tuesday Night Fights presented by Miller High Life. Mark Too Sharp Johnson has been described as one of the most talented fighters today. At his best, he's unbeatable. But after a 19-month layoff, he's now vulnerable. Tonight, he takes on the tough Arturo Valenzuela. Let's go to Max and Mario for more on that.
All right, thank you very much, Cassandra. And the fight fans here in Detroit getting ready to watch this bout as well. Arturo Valenzuela comes in out of Tijuana, Mexico, with a height of 5'6", weight 118. 18 wins, 3 losses, 1 draw, 16 of those wins has power, Max. 16 coming by way of
Johnson
knockout.
doesn't fight any bad fighters.
No, he doesn't duck competition, which is key here. As we look at his height, 5'3", comes in just shy of 120 pounds.
Well,
29
bantamweight,
years of
118 pounds, give or take a pound, so he's still technically a bantamweight, and that's really 40-0, folks. That's not 39-1. That's 40-0.
Anything on his trunks or below, I'm going to consider a low blow. Golpes abajo de esta línea de roja, yo voy a decir que son golpes malos. Okay. Yo quiero una pelea limpia, no way of cochinos. I want a good, clean fight, okay? I want it kept clean throughout. Shake hands, dar la mano. Buena suerte, puede ganar el mejor. May the best man win.
Frank Garza pulling double duty tonight with the languages.
This is just, it's such a treat to watch a guy like Mark Too Sharp Johnson fight. See the highlights of his career. Vorapin, a very tough guy. Johnson had his way with him. Tejedor was the guy that Danny Romero went the distance with to win his title. Johnson knocks him out in 1 round. What's not listed here is Arthur Johnson, who went the distance, although lost every round against Tim Austin, who gave Johnny Tapia a very good fight. In the fight right before the new Friday Night Fight series started on ESPN2. It was still called Friday Night Fights, though. Mark Johnson knocked out Arthur Johnson, same guy who gave Tapia that tough distance fight and lost narrowly. Mark Johnson knocked Arthur Johnson out in 1 round. So he takes guys, and Johnson's not a big puncher, he's a boxer. But he's so much better than these guys. He takes guys that Danny Romero and Johnny Tapia had their hands full with and annihilates them. And, of course, as is the plight of most black southpaws throughout the history of boxing, tough. You ain't getting the big fights.
He definitely does have everything going for him in that department, being a southpaw, Max, because that right there is winning half the battle. And Valenzuela's got to come in here the first round tonight and try to figure that.
Too Sharp wants some Naseem Hamed money, or at least some Johnny Tapia money. And the only way to get that is either to fight Naseem Hamed or Johnny Tapia.
Which is a fight that can be made here sometime in the future, no doubt about it.
Better not look too good here. If he wants Tapia, better not look too good. And you know something? I don't say Johnny Tapia ducks anybody. Of course not. Johnny Tapia's got the heart of a lion, just like Hamed has. He's a real champion, a real warrior. But the people who handle Johnny Tapia, you think his wife Teresa's going to let him in the ring with Mark Too Sharp Johnson? Very unlikely, and so far it hasn't happened.
And look at Too Sharp. He just stands there and he's like a cat toying with a mouse thus far in this bout, Max.
Right, and I bring up Johnny Tapia's wife, not to bring his wife into it, because she's
his manager.
She's his manager. She's
right,
got to say
absolutely.
so. For people who are wondering why I bring that up.
Max, I got news for you, though. Every wife in America is a manager.
Okay, I'm staying away from that.
So Too Sharp here in round number 1, looking sharp, which is not what he wants to do. Personally, yes, but he does not want to do that to send a message out loud.
Exactly. I asked
to everyone else.
Fight. Mark, you have to look spectacular here. He goes, no, I want to get back to boxing. You know, staying in the middle of the ring like Purnell did. You know, slipping and countering. I said, but now what about the fact that if you don't look good, you get a fight? He goes, you know, I was thinking that.
You know, that's what's difficult about watching a guy like Too Sharp. Here's a guy who, if he didn't have the problems outside of the ring, Max, could very well be one of the premier fighters in the sport in terms of power at the gate and power inside the ring.
Again, in this country, the easiest way to promote a guy is if he's Latin, because it's easier you have the built-in fan base. If it wasn't for Mexico especially, and also Puerto Rico, boxing would be just about dead in this country. They're totally supporting it. And he's a smaller fighter, and Americans don't really like watching smaller fighters, so that's tough to say. But certainly, pound for pound, he was one of the best.
Too Sharp's in the ring here this evening, but you can check out some other action coming up on Friday night. Michael Moore against Dale Crow on Friday Night Fights at 9 p.m. Eastern.
That should be a good one. Dale Crow, very strong guy, physically strong, and Michael Moore knocked out Terrence Lewis not long ago on Friday Night Fights. Terrence Lewis himself knocked out Robert Davis in a great fight on Tuesday Night Fights in San Francisco earlier this summer. So far, I don't know if he's too sharp yet. He's maybe sharp and a half. This is just a pretty fighter to watch, and he's a tough guy. He can take a punch. He's not afraid to mix it up. He's got some pop, got great technique, great athleticism, a lot of heart. You gotta love watching a guy like this, like Mark Johnson. By far the best fighter, most talented fighter we've had on Tuesday Night Fights so far.
He definitely does have the complete package still, Max, at his age.
You know, you're watching Mark Johnson. You're watching someone with relevance in boxing. A guy with major league relevance. A guy who's helped define, even though he hasn't gotten the big fights, an era in the lower weight classes. When we're much older and younger guys ask us, yeah, what about the flyweights in your day? The first guy that's going to come to mind is Too-Sharp Johnson. He's the best I've seen. Best flyweight I've seen in my life. Ricardo Lopez, a tremendous fighter, but hey, he weighs 105 pounds at his best. Oh, Too-Sharp's all the way up at 112. Give me a break. You know what? Offer Too-Sharp a fight at 110. See if he doesn't meet you there. Of course he would. But the people who handle Ricardo Lopez, Don King would never let Ricardo Lopez get within 1,000,000 miles of Too-Sharp because he knows Too-Sharp would whip him. And Ricardo Lopez is a super great fighter. Love him. But he's not Too-Sharp Johnson.
No. Too-Sharp is conducting a clinic at the expense of Valenzuela here this evening.
By the way, when I bring up Ricardo Lopez, no fight manager or promoter even takes that idea seriously. They're like, oh, come on, man.
Yeah, exactly.
We're not going to put him in with Too-Sharp Johnson. Oh, okay, well, that tells you how good Too-Sharp is.
Which is a shame.
And meanwhile, Too-Sharp is willing to go up a similar proportion of his body weight to fight the best guys at 22 or 26. I mean, he was at 112. He'll move up in a heartbeat to fight Johnny Tapia, Paulie Ayala, all those guys. He'll move up to fight Naseem Hamed. Now, yes, of course it's for the money, but it's also because Johnson's so good he thinks he can beat everybody. And as good as Ricardo Lopez is, the people who handle him don't believe that. And as good as Johnny Tapia is, the people who handle him don't believe that.
Well, we here at ESPN are extremely excited about having Michael Moore on the card once again Friday night versus Dale Crowe. He's now standing with Cassandra Henderson. Cassandra.
Your fight Friday, this is your biggest test since coming back from your 3-year layoff. How do you expect to beat this guy? He's pretty tough.
Well, I had some good sparring in California, and I was sparring with James Toney, a guy named Stevie, and Preston, and they gave me some good work, and I feel pretty good.
You've made a lot of changes in the past 3 years. What are some of those changes?
Well, the change is I just rededicated myself to the game that I love, and I'm comfortable with what I did because I did it for myself and not no one else.
Now, speaking of layoffs, Too-Sharp just came back from an 18-month layoff. Tell us what you think about him. How does he look so far?
Well, that's just a team of a father and son relationship that's successful in boxing. It's where he's been a champion, and he's still doing this thing. You know, he's coming back and still doing this thing.
All right, thanks so much, Michael. Let's go back to Too-Sharp and let him do his thing some more.
All right, thanks a lot, Cassandra. We go from one southpaw to the other inside of the ring.
You know, and Too-Sharp's always had defensive lapses here and there. If there's a criticism to be made of him, he's had defensive lapses in the past.
Best right punch of the night, man. Second one right there on top of him.
But the defensive lapses now are more frequent than they were in the past. He gets hit more often. Although you have to say, against a tough guy who gave Dianzo a lot of problems before Dianzo stopped him. Dianzo beat Paulie Ayala despite what the judges said. Here, Too-Sharp is totally dominating.
I'd like to say Valenzuela has defensive lapses, but the fact of the matter is he has no defense against a guy like Too-Sharp. Too-Sharp is on a completely different level, and he's doing what he can't afford to do tonight. That's look Too-Sharp.
You know, I mentioned about Lopez not moving up to fight Too-Sharp Johnson. Hey, Jimmy Wild was Lopez's size, 105 pounds, probably the greatest flyweight ever. And Wild used to fight guys at flyweight, 112 pounds. He gave up a lot of weight. So if you're that great, you can fight and beat everybody. As great as Lopez is, he wouldn't touch this guy. And it's not, listen, I call out other guys. And usually it's not the fighters, as I said. It's the guys who handle it. But Bones Adams, who I love Bones Adams. He doesn't want Too-Sharp. Paulie Ayala don't want Mark Johnson. Let's just take names. Everyone there, no one wants Mark Johnson. The only guy who probably would fight him is Tim Austin, because he also can't get fights. Although even Tim Austin Why hasn't that fight been made?
You know what, though, Max? It'd be a very intriguing fight, but I think Tapia would take a piece of it.
Would take Too Sharp? You think Tapia beats Mark Johnson?
I wouldn't say he wouldn't, but I think
Tapia is not going out like a punk against anyone. Tapia is a tremendous fighter, and you love the way he fights, absolutely.
Well, look at the
but
way...
he's not going to beat Mark Johnson.
Look at the way Johnson is just manhandling Valenzuela. He's got his hands way below the waist here this evening. He is fighting a style that, that is perfect.
This is, Tapia can do this against guys, but not this effectively. When guys like Tapia do this, and again, I don't want to take anything away from him, a tremendous fighter. He can't embarrass world-class fighters. He can beat them, but he can't embarrass them. Mark Johnson can embarrass world-class fighters like Tejedor, who went the distance with Romero, like Arthur Johnson, who went the distance and fought Tapia very well. He embarrasses those guys.
Well, if he embarrasses those guys, he's absolutely humiliating Valenzuela here this evening. I mean, the Mexican continues to push forward and give him credit. He hasn't gone down yet, but he's taken a lot of punishment here in the first 3 rounds of this fight.
Mark Johnson's a thing of beauty to watch when he's on, and he's on. This is showboating. The guy is so superior to his opponent, who's not a weak kid. He's a tough kid, but so superior that he's able to do this stuff. Mark Johnson never fights jokes. Never in his whole career has he been in, since he's been on a world-class level with a joke. He's always in with tough guys. A guy like La Cierva, I criticized Johnson on the air for his performance against La Cierva before he went to prison. Johnson went to prison, while he was the reigning IBF 115-pound champion. Turns out La Cierva, who I knew was a tough fighter to begin with, is a better fighter than I thought. Since then, won the IBF title.
You can see the activity. You think it'd be all Johnson. Actually, Valenzuela does have the advantage in there, so that Johnson is more accurate in landing the greater number of punches. And he continues to just move around this ring, landing at will, breaking down Valenzuela here.
Yeah, and Valenzuela is still trying to win. Eyes wide open, coming forward, throwing those right hands when Johnson gives him the opportunity. He's game, and not just game, not a game loser. We've seen game losers. He's a game guy who's trying to win.
But what a wake-up call from this young fighter. He's never fought outside of Mexico. His first fight in the States, Mark Johnson. Good evening.
That's a tough draw. And, I used to tell Too Sharp when he was telling me who he wanted at the higher weight divisions, Barrera and these guys, oh, come on, Mark, they're too big. They're too big for you. Enough. You'd lose those fights. But now, if he becomes the best at 118 pounds, if he were to beat Tim Austin, suddenly he moves up to 122 if he's the best there, which is not that far-fetched. Why couldn't he compete against a guy like Barrera, who you figure would be too strong for him, but you don't know?
And there's of course another Mexican fighter out there who comes from Tijuana, the same city that Valenzuela comes from, Mr. Eric Morales.
Right.
And Senor Morales would love to make a fight. Well, that pays money for him because he's looking for that big payday. He'll get it in Barrera, but who knows after that?
That's the problem with Mark Johnson. That's why he can't attract these big names. He's not worth enough money to them.
Johnson continued to unleash the punishment here.
Just you see the way he hooks off to the body with bad intention, throws that straight left hand, then he's not there to be hit. Doesn't run away. Where's Too Sharp this whole fight? Is his back on the ropes? Or his back, is he back in the corner? No. He's using purposeful movement in the middle of the ring, making his guy miss and countering. People think to be a good defensive fighter, you have to be scared to be hit. No, wrong. Those are bad defensive fighters. The good defensive fighters are the guys who aren't scared to get hit, who will take one punch now and then, but who don't get hit with combinations, who take that one punch occasionally so they can land a couple of their own, who know this is boxing. Part of the game, even if you have a very tight defense, is taking that punch here and there. That's the kind of fight that Mark Johnson's fighting. It's the most difficult style to perfect, and when it's perfected, it's the most beautiful style in the world.
Welcome back to the Motor City. Mario Diaz along with Max Kellerman and Cassandra Henderson coming to you ringside tonight from the Mark Too Sharp Johnson bout against Arturo Valenzuela here. And, okay, so here we are, almost at the midway point of the fight here. We've discussed so much about...
Well, maybe the midway point for Valenzuela.
We've seen Johnson, and we've seen everything that he's done. Look at the power punches. He's done everything great. What's he done wrong?
I think that because he takes more chances and because he knows he's not in with Marco Antonio Barrera, he is getting hit a little bit more than I was used to seeing him in his prime. I don't know if Too Sharp's still in his prime. At flyweight, when he was at his best, he was impossible. But this is a reasonable approximation of that. And as I said, listen, when Sugar Ray Leonard didn't look good in his comeback against Kevin Howard, he was scared to get hit. He admitted it, and so he got hit. It's when he wasn't scared to get hit, when he was in there with guys like Benitez, that he was at his best defensively. And this is a perfect example of a guy like that. Too Sharp's right in front of his man, making a miss, countering, slipping and countering, catching and countering. It's just beautiful to watch.
And he nails Valenzuela with 2 whites. There's a third. Now he's peppering him. But he did stun the Mexican. He's back against the ropes. Now Too Sharp could possibly end this thing in round 5. He is just landing the big punches, Max.
You're right. You asked what he's doing wrong. It's not that he's doing it wrong. He's not a heavy-handed puncher. He's a good, solid puncher, a sharp puncher, because he is so too sharp. And he's fast, and he hits guys with punches they don't see. And textbook shots, but he's not a heavy-handed guy. If he was a better power puncher, Valenzuela would be gone.
Out of 40 fights, he only has 26 knockouts, but you get the sense that number 27 may be on the horizon. Valenzuela is getting busted like a piñata. He's got no answers.
But he is going back. He is catching Too Sharp. And this is also not a fight that you worry overly about at this point, but Valenzuela is starting to get hit with so many clean shots that if the referee, you have to start thinking, yes, he keeps throwing, he has a chance, but is it worth it?
And look how calm and cool Mark Johnson is landing these big shots. He's like the Grim Reaper. It's nothing personal, Valenzuela. No. It's just business. As he continues to rock Valenzuela back into the ropes.
This fight is close to being stopped.
There is no answer from Valenzuela.
This fight is close to being stopped, folks. If this is to go on for the rest of this round and even part of the next round, that's more than enough. More than enough punishment.
There are no punches coming back from Valenzuela.
And it doesn't matter if they are at this point. You know, Larry Hazard, Manny Stewart and I were talking about it. The best thing he ever did was stopping that Prince Charles Williams-Marquis Sosa fight for excessive brutality. If a guy's will is too strong for his own good, save him from himself. It's enough. That's enough.
You can see that Valenzuela is just a spent bullet here in round number 5. Cassandra Henderson now is standing right beside Tommy Hearns, who has more from his vantage point up there. Cassandra.
Thanks, Mario. Well, we have to comment on that great round, Tommy. What do you think about it?
You know what? I think they gave him the right name. When they call him Too Sharp, he's too sharp. I mean, he's doing everything at will, just punching at will, connecting all the way, and what more can you ask for? I mean, it's a wonderful fight. I think everybody here, the audience, is enjoying itself. They paid their money. They get great performance. So, nobody can argue. I can't argue at all.
All right, this has been a great week for you. Big birthday celebration here in Detroit, 300 years old. They've been honoring boxing greats like you. What does this mean to you?
You know, I think it's a wonderful thing because I've been in that high list of people that's being honored today. You know what I'm saying? And when you can look back and say, Joe Louis, and be ranked above Joe Louis, to me, that's a great accomplishment. A great accomplishment.
Congratulations, Tommy. Let's go back to the fight. Thanks again.
And Mark Johnson has his hands in the air, right in front of Valenzuela, just tagging the Mexican. You hear Max Kellerman screaming at Garza, that's enough. And Garza jumps in on the last shot.
No, Garza jumped in. Garza didn't jump in because of me. He jumped in because he knew it was time.
Absolutely. He made the decision. It was just timing. But Mark Too Sharp Johnson sends a message here this evening. Granted, it was Arturo Valenzuela, his first fight outside of Mexico, and he paid dearly for making the trip to Detroit. But Too Sharp came in here tonight, sending the message that he needed to send. He might say that he did not want to look extremely talented inside the ring.
That's too bad for him because that was electrifying.
But he had no choice tonight, Max.
Mark Johnson's the best bantamweight in the world. I know this is not the greatest fighter in the world, Valenzuela, that he fought. But if Mark Johnson were to fight Paulie Ayala or Tim Austin, I would pick Too Sharp. I think he's the best bantamweight in the world.
Well, Too Sharp improves to 40-1. We'll talk to him coming up. Stay tuned. And welcome back to Detroit, Michigan, where if you've been watching Tuesday Night Fights this summer, you have just seen one of, if not the most talented fighter, pick up the 40th victory of his career, Mark Too Sharp Johnson.
Mark Johnson did what he wanted to do at will, had his way, put on a show. Listen, the only reason I would say that he's not the best guy in the division and instantly pick him over Tim Austin or Paulie Ayala easily is because I wasn't sure what he had left. Now, against Valenzuela, you're still not 100% sure he was what he once was. But if Mark Johnson's even 80% of what he was at his best, he will whip Tim Austin or Paulie Ayala. He's too good. He's another level of fighter. Pound for pound, he was one of the 5 or 6 best fighters in the world in his prime, maybe better than that.
You can just see.
And if he can even,
well, no answer.
There's no answer. If he can even approximate his prime, he's still one of the 10 best pound-for-pound fighters in the world for sure. He needs big fights. He deserves it. He's such a supreme talent. Why are we as fans deprived of seeing him against the best of his era? It's outrageous.
Well, let's have him answer that. He's standing by with Cassandra. Cassandra.
Thanks, Mario. Congratulations, Mark. Everybody's congratulating him. Mark, in your last fight, Max said you were just sharp. You were no longer too sharp, just sharp. How did that affect your performance tonight?
First of all, I'd like to thank the Almighty, all the guys back in Petersburg who were keeping me focused. Kevin, Mom, Carden, Rudy, Jake, Eddie Mathis, Bird. It was just, I knew what I had to do to stay focused, to outbox these guys. And I did what it took to outbox them early. Then I opened them up with some big shots. I had them hurt the round before the ref stopped it. And I was surprised that they didn't stop it. But I just fought a month ago. I'm looking forward to go right back next month in August. To get the ball rolling, I want to go once a month and let the guys know that Mark Johnson definitely is back.
Now, your manager, James Prince, told me earlier you were not going to waste any time in going after a title shot. Who do you want next?
I want them all. I want Ayala, Tim Austin, Bones Adams. I want them all from 22 on down. And, I'd like to thank all the ladies back in Shea Samsky for her hair salon and Two Shop Barbershop for keeping me focused. We want them all. And Scarface, hurry up and get this video ready. I'm ready, baby.
All right. Thanks so much, Mark.